for Bristol City. Obviously, a big campaign ahead with Gerhard Struber looking to come in and make a real good impact starting off in the Championship. Now it's obviously a massive deal. They lost Liam Manning to a sort of Championship rival in Norwich City. So having to bounce back from the pain of achieving something that's really evaded Bristol City as a club for a number of years. They broke into that playoff place, as we mentioned. But they haven't made that massive step forward. They obviously fell short in the playoffs to Sheffield United, who obviously fell short in the final. But it was a record loss, and it really sort of hurt the club. So. In terms of transfer activity as well, it's important to look at where they are with that. I mean, it's been an incredibly interesting summer on all fronts for a number of clubs. They travel to Sheffield United in their first Championship game. Now, that is an incredibly tough ask. Gerhard Struber, we'll see how he's going to set up, how interested he's going to be in making sure that they get that project nailed down early on. I feel that's going to be interesting. And then if you look at Bristol City's start last season, it was very poor, and they had a few poor spells, and they maybe would have regretted that come the end of that season when they were making that playoff charge as well. So we're going to go to our Bristol correspondent, Dan Wales. Dan, just look at Bristol City, where they are, what they need from this Championship season, especially at the early start. We mentioned last season it sort of came back to bite them a little bit in their race for the playoffs. They obviously made it, but I think they could have certainly been higher up there had they had a good start. So a good start is obviously something every club wants, but a very tough one away at Sheffield United. What have you made of their summer, and how can you see them going on as they travel to Sheffield and try and make a fine start to this new era and Championship campaign?
Well, Charles, for Bristol City, we've said all along this summer that it's going to be an interesting season just because of what's gone on over the summer. They've lost Liam Manning, someone who took them into the playoffs last season with, let's be honest, quite an average Championship squad. And then, of course, he's gone off to Norwich City, a Championship rival. But they've brought in Gerhard Struber from FC Köln, who seems to be really invigorating the players and staff and indeed supporters and getting them all on side ahead of the new season. Now, lots of predictions for the upcoming Championship season. I haven't really got Bristol City been very groundbreaking in terms of where they finished, sort of mid-table, which, to be fair, you could have probably predicted them to finish mid-table last season, but of course they didn't do that. They got into the playoffs. They finished 6th. Now, they've had a decent enough transfer window so far. They've made some shrewd additions to their squad, and as mentioned, the most important addition is probably that of Gerhard Struber himself. So going into the season, I think they're in a really good place to really hit the ground running. Now, that's obviously not saying that they will do that, because we know the Championship can be a really demanding and tough league, and obviously Gerhard Struber is coming into a new club, so whether he will hit the ground running remains to be seen. But he does have experience managing in England with Barnsley previously, so I'm sure he'll lead on that an awful lot. But overall, I think that a lot of the players at Bristol City will draw on the experience they had from last season and getting into the playoff, and they'll use that to their advantage. Certainly, I don't think they'll be in any trouble naturally this season, that they've got too good of a squad for that now. Whether they'll make the playoffs again remains to be seen, but they certainly have the foundations on which to build on to at least be close to them again. I think what was really letting them down last season was conceding too many goals at late stages of the game when they perhaps could have had a point more or even 2 points more, and that really let them down. They could have finished even higher up in the Championship table, but they didn't, but they still made it into the playoffs, and that in itself is a learning curve. Now they go to Sheffield United in their first game of the season, who of course they just played in the playoffs at the end of last season, losing 6-0 on aggregate. So perhaps a bit of revenge could be on the cards for Bristol City. It's going to be an interesting season. I think that's the main point for Bristol City. They need to learn from last season and build on it. But also, I think Gerhard Struber can be afforded a little bit of time. I don't think if they don't make it straight away that they should call for his head. I think that would be wrong, because I think he certainly seems to have the players on board during this pre-season. It's just a case of building up through the gears now.